Good afternoon, if that's really what it is. Maybe it's afternoon when I'm making this, and maybe it's evening when you're watching it, or morning, or afternoon. I'm confused. The internet is so confusing. Anyway, I'm just good to be here. Good to be here. It's good to be anywhere. You know what mermaids wash their fins in? Tide. You are welcome. Today is April 1, 2026. Artemis is scheduled to launch at about 5:24 Central Time. That's my time right here, so 5:24 Central. You do the math if it's not your time. And it's NASA's first trip back to the moon since the Apollo program. Apollo 17 left the moon. Gene Cernan was the last astronaut to walk on the moon. And it's been that long since they've been back. That was 1972, I believe. Well, they're not walking now. They're just going to orbit. I say just go to orbit like they were going to quick trip to get a hot dog. No, it's incredibly tough what they're going to do. They're going to break out of the atmosphere of Earth and orbit and fly to the moon and orbit the moon and then make the trip back. And it's pretty wild that they're going back. The last I've heard is they are planning on trying to do a moon landing in 2028. Mission to test equipment and stuff is going to be between today's flight, if it gets to leave, and then they're going to do another flight to test equipment in Earth orbit and do things to iron out some different strategies, following the same blueprint that Apollo did years back. After the Apollo fire, Apollo 7 went up in space and tested all the command module equipment and things in Earth orbit. Then Apollo 8, maybe the gutsiest mission ever flown, they decided to send Apollo 8 to the moon to orbit the moon, just like Artemis is going to be doing, and come back. And they did that without a lunar module, without anything. Well, I mean, without any type of a backup or plan. They just went and orbited the moon and came back. Apollo 8. Then Apollo 9 tested the lunar module and things in Earth orbit and different aspects of the equipment and the suits and everything, mostly the lunar module, the LEM. Then Apollo 10 was a complete dress rehearsal, basically. It went to the moon, the lunar module undocked, it flew really low. I forget the exact height, something like 10,000 feet, that may be wrong. Don't quote me on that one. I just can't remember. And redocked with the command and service module, and then those guys came back. That went real well. Everything, they had some issues flying around on a couple things. I mean, you read about these missions, they all had issues. That's why these guys are studs. But then finally Apollo 11 went with the planned landing, and it worked out. Again, Neil and Buzz, because Neil and Buzz are studs. So Neil and Buzz, they landed on the moon. If people say they didn't, those people are, what's the word I'm looking for? Wrong. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. Wrong. Those people are completely wrong. They're either just flat out lying or they just aren't smart enough to understand it. Some may sincerely think, oh, they couldn't have done that. But when they could logically look at everything, and they could, and they did. So Apollo 11 landed. Neil and Buzz walked. Apollo 12 landed with Al Bean and Pete Conrad. They landed on the moon, and I should have said Pete Conrad and Al Bean. Pete Conrad was the commander, and their flight was almost perfect. Landed exactly where they were trying to land. Apollo 13, most of you probably know they didn't make it to the moon. They had the explosion and the greatest failure, as they call it, and the famous movie, and it was made, and it's a great movie to watch. It's very accurate. I heard Mr. Jim Lovell give a speech one time, and he even said it was really accurate, and it was. Then Apollo 14 went back, Ed Mitchell and Al Shepard, and they walked on the moon, did a lot of good things. Then they went Apollos 15, 16, and 17 became known the J missions, where they had the lunar rover and they had increased stays. They were all staying on the walking multiple times and staying longer and longer and being outside on longer and longer. Apollo 15 was Jim Irvin and Dave Scott. Apollo 16 was John Young and Charlie Duke. And longer and longer. And then, of course, Apollo 17, the last one, was Harrison Schmitt and Gene Cernan. And they stayed the longest. Literally, I think they were doing EVAs. They were out on the surface of the moon in their suits or in the lunar rover working for over 24 hours, I believe it was. Right at that. And a total stay of like 3 days total between getting in and out and everything, or something like that. Anyway, they're a cool mission. So now they're going back to orbit. And then hopefully, I suppose, Lord willing, should be said, Lord willing, in 2028, they might land if everything goes good. And I hope it does. It'd be cool to be alive to see that. We'll see. Don't have no control over that, really. Well, I mean, you could be stupid and know you're going to do something dumb and die, or you could, try to live safely, but you never know what's going to happen. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. NASA's going back, and again, finally, after all these years. Hopefully the launch happens here at, like I said, 5:25. It's about, when I'm doing this, it's about 1:45, so about 3 hours and 45 minutes from now, give or take, if everything goes well. They should blast off, lift off. Those lift-offs are fun. These new rockets, they're not as cool as the Saturn V. They just don't have the look. They got the power and they got the technology, and it's an awesome feat. So there's a little bitty video for you today, and I hope you enjoyed that. Always remember, put God and His Son first, Jesus Christ, His Son, and everything will be all right. Thank you.